Okay, so inshallah, let's start our session with Al-Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Ameen. Rabbi zidni 'ilma. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, inshallah, today we are going to discuss chapter 3 of Fiqh Muamalat. And today our topic is about the formation of contract, which is in Arabic called akad. People easily pronounce akad, akad. It's not akad, it's aqd, al-aqdu. It's like that, aqd. It's not simply akad. Okay. So today, inshallah, we are going to discuss about the definition of contract, definition of aqd, permissibility of a contract, various types of contract, unilateral and bilateral, one side or both sides, two sides, followed by the pillars of contract. Okay? So this is our topic today for discussion. I hope you already you have gone through the slides because I already shared with you the slides yesterday. Okay. So again, if you have any question or anything, you can use chat box or you can ask the question directly, right? Okay. So can you see the slides? Everything is okay? Okay. So as an introduction, okay. Okay. So as introduction, the contract is the key elements of Fiqh Muamalat. Okay. And it is the basis for every Islamic financial product. All right. So it is important to know when a contract is valid and when a contract is invalid or void, sahih and batil. So contract is the basic foundation of fiqh muamalat. Also, contract is the basis foundation of Islamic financial products and services. All right. In Islamic commercial law, when we talk about Islamic commercial law and fiqh muamalat, all right. So the contract here is very, very sensitive and essential. When you offer any product or any services, or you want to do any exchange, that should be based on a permissible contract. All right. Without contract, there is no product, there is no service. Right? So this is the basic difference actually between Islamic and conventional banks. In conventional, they don't have any contract. They have just lending and borrowing agreement, right? IOU. Right? But in Islamic, you must define the contract first. If you want to start, if you want to offer any product or any service, that should be designed based on any contract. And then the consequence or the rights and responsibilities of the contract and the risk and liability of the product will be based on the contract, right? For example, if it is Modaraba contract, the relationship between buyers and sellers and other stakeholders will be different. from musharaka, different from murabaha. So every contract will give or will provide a different kind of relation among the contracting parties as well as within the stakeholders as well. All right. So contract will define the other clauses, the other condition of the product itself. All right. So the first question we can ask anytime for any product and any service in Islamic finance industry, that what is the underlying contract of your product, right? Because if no contract, there will be no product. Yes, in one product, there could be more than one contract, which is hybrid. For example, we will see later on, murabaha with ijara, right? Istisna with ijara, ijara with hiba, and so on. So whatever, whether there is one contract or more than one contracts, but there should have contract to design any product. That's why we say it is the basis for every Islamic financial products and services. You want to transfer money? So which contract you use? Hawala, right? You request the bank to do something for you. So bank will do something for you and bank will ask the commission or service charge. So which contract? Maybe wakala or maybe other contract or maybe juala, incentive-based contract, right? So we have many contracts we will discuss today. So any products and any services that should be designed based on the contract. That's why it is important to know the valid and invalid contracts, the terms and condition of the contract. Okay. So um, the documentation of a product, all right, will tell you whether this contract, the way it is designed, whether it will be valid or not, right? That's why the first thing we should look into the contract itself and terms and condition of the contract. Okay. So what is the contract? What is aqd? The Arabic word for contract is aqd. Aqd means to tie upon, right? To tighten something, which is the opposite of free, which is the opposite of release. You release something means you let it go, right? And akad means you don't let it go, you tight it, right? You make it tighten. The literal meaning. So what is the relation between the literal meaning and the terminology? Because in akad, the related parties, for example, the buyer and the seller, they become tightened. They become related to each other, right? When you sign a contract with other party, it means a relationship has been built among yourself, right? In terms of what? In terms of making delivery of commodity and in terms of the making payment from other side, right? So this is akad, what the parties bind themselves and undertake to do with reference to a particular matter, right? So if the buyer and seller, they do the contract based on let's say exchanging a house, right? So the seller will sell the house, so the seller undertake means the seller makes a promise on him, that the seller takes some responsibility on him to deliver the house to the buyer, all right? And on the other hand, the buyer or the purchaser takes the liability or takes the responsibility to make the payment accordingly. So to a particular matter means, let's say related to exchange of a house or to exchange of a commodity. So the seller will deliver the commodity and the purchaser will make the payment. So this is about akad. It is a relationship between the related parties or between the buyer and seller and so on. If ijara, between the lessor and lessee, if mudaraba between the mudarrib and Rabbul Mal, if musharaka between the partners or among the partners. All right. So what the parties bind themselves, what the parties takes the responsibility to do something with reference to a particular matter. This is about akad. So this is the academic definition. You can understand and you can write in your own way, no problem. So normally the akad is composed of the combination of offer and acceptance. So this is the format to conclude an akad. How an act can be concluded? One party will make the offer and the other party will make the acceptance. The offer can come from the buyer side, can come from the seller side also. Normally the seller makes the offer, but can be other way around. The buyer can say, okay, I want to buy your house with so and so amount. Then the seller say, okay, I agree. So this also could be. So the offer and acceptance should be there. We will discuss later on, maybe a next chapter, about the format. There are many forms of offer, many forms of acceptance. It's not necessary to say verbally, I offer you and I accept it. It is not necessary. Can be done many ways. All right. So whatever the definition of akad is, the relationship between the related parties, all right, to undertake to do something with reference to a particular matter. And it is normally a combination of offer and acceptance. We call the offer in Arabic called ijab and acceptance in Arabic called qabul. All right. Okay. Uh, we understood the meaning and the definition of akad. So there are some terminology, some terms related to akad, which is tasarruf. Tasarruf means action, any activities, any kind of action is called tasarruf. We have also wa'ad, promise, and we have muawada. Wa'ad, promise from one side. Muawada, mutual promise. I promise you, you promise me. And then we have iltizam. Iltizam means obligation, binding. Iltizam means also irrevocable, means something you cannot cancel. All right. So we'll see the difference between akad and wa'ad, muawada, tasarruf, and iltizam. These are the related terms, related words, but there are some differences. Okay. So wa'ad means basically, wa'ad literally means promise. It is a declaration from the declarer that he intends to perform a good deed in the future. So wa'ad is not akad. Wa'ad is just a commitment, just a promise. I promise you that I will buy your house tomorrow. So this is promise. This is not akad. The akad will be tomorrow. But this is just a declaration, just a statement, just a commitment kind of things. I promise that I will buy, inshallah, tomorrow if everything is all right. Okay. So this is akad. Sorry, this is wa'ad, promise. And then muawada, the wa'ad and mu'ada means mutual promise. To promise each one of the two to the other to perform something good in future. So the seller says, okay, I will sell my house next week with this amount. So this is promise from the seller. And the buyer says, okay, I promise I will buy, inshallah. So this promise from both sides. The buyer also, the seller also, both they promise each other that they will do the contract next week. So this is muawada from both sides. Okay. So what is the difference between wa'ad, muawada, and aqd? As we have seen, Wa'ad is just a declaration to perform an action in the future. Muawada also declaration, but declaration from both sides. So there is no agreement. There is no exchange, no contract. So akad means a mutual agreement on a particular matter which is in effect at the present time. So we have seen some differences. First, the wa'ad and muawada is just a declaration, and wa'ad is from one party only, muawada from two parties, and akad from two parties. However, muawada is a mutual declaration, but akad is a mutual agreement. All right. Mutual declaration or single declaration, it will be in future. But akad, this one in the present time. Because when we say, if it is akad, so it means I have sold. Bi'tu, I have sold my house. And the purchaser say, ishtaraitu, I have purchased. So already done, present time. But when we say, I will sell my house tomorrow, so this is not contract, this is just a promise. So akad always related to the present time. But wa'ad and muawada is something related to the future. All right. When it comes to the uh, issue of binding or non-binding, whether it is obligation to follow or not to follow, so wa'ad and muawada is voluntary. Voluntary means it's not binding to follow legally, even though uh, the morally, from the religion perspective, from the ethics perspective, it is binding, because Allah says what? Awfu bil uqud, fulfill your contract, fulfill your promise, right? But legally, it is not binding. So legally, you just promise today. Tomorrow you say, sorry, I don't want to buy, I don't want to sell, right? So as a legal effect, the wa'ad and muawada is not binding. But akad is binding. A mutual exchange where every party is rewarded. Means every party will exchange. You exchange your house, you get money. The buyer will provide the money and he will get the house. Okay. So there is an issue in Islamic finance regarding the wa'ad. So you can take your assignment topic, you can take your project topic, whether the wa'ad and muawada is binding or not. So this is a very good topic and controversial and discussion topic, subject to discussion. The scholar discuss many ways that a customer makes promise to buy a house from or to buy something from the bank, for example, on the murabaha basis, and later on customers say, no, sorry, I don't want to buy. So bank already incurred some cost. Bank already purchased the asset for him. Bank already prepared the documentation. So bank already makes some expenses. So if we simply say that the word is not binding, customer can revoke any time, so bank will lose the money. All right. So it will be the loss for the industry. So how we can address, how we can provide the solution for this issue, right? So a scholar says that, for example, there is an opinion in Maliki school that if any of the party in the contract, they incur some cost, they make some expenses based on the promise, then that promise will become binding. All right. But still, if the promisor they wants to revoke the promise, then he has to pay the compensation. For example, the buyer says, I will buy your house tomorrow or next week. So the seller already incur some expenses. So it amounts, let's say, 5,000 ringgit. So in that case, the purchaser cannot revoke the promise. He has to buy the house. Otherwise, he has to pay that compensation. 5,000 ringgit he has to pay to the seller because the seller made these expenses based on his promise. Okay. So this issue you can discuss, and when you discuss, you can learn many things related to the wa'ad. All right. So this is the basic difference between wa'ad, muawada, and aqad. Next, we go to tasarruf, action. Tasarruf means every expression and action that has an outcome in fiqh. Tasarruf means the action of a matured person, an aqil, baligh. For example, if a crazy person do something, maybe it doesn't have any legal consequences. So tasarruf means any things we do that has an outcome. For example, anger, happiness, or buying, selling, giving lecture, doing something. Anything that we do, if it has legal outcome, it will be tasarruf. For example, anger. If you are angry, so if someone angry, and in that situation, if he or she sells something, that sale will not be binding. All right. If, for example, the marriage, the divorce, or anything, any buying and selling will not have any legal outcome in the case of angerness. If somebody angry, he or she cannot do anything because he is not in the normal situation. All right. So tasarruf is a general term, includes all contractual and non-contractual expression. Means anything we do, it is tasarruf. But aqad is not anything we do. Aqad is a contractual agreement that creates the obligation. But tasarruf sometimes creates obligation, sometimes not. Not. Tasarruf could be contractual, could not be contractual. For example, I'm reading. This is my work, so there is no contract. All right. So this is also tasarruf. So tasarruf is general, and aqad is a specific compared to the tasarruf. So every aqad is tasarruf, not otherwise. Okay. Every aqad is tasarruf, but every tasarruf is not necessarily aqad. I hope you understand. So aqad is a part of tasarruf because aqad is contractual and aqad is something that creates the obligation. But tasarruf, it could be contractual, it could not be contractual. So when it is not contractual, of course, there is no obligation because obligation comes from the contract, from the mutual agreement, right? And finally, iltizam. Iltizam means obligation. Obligation, we can say also bindings, means something you have to follow, you have to fulfill. So iltizam means when a person is obliged to perform an action or to abstain from an action, When sometimes you have to do something or you don't have to do something, means you cannot do. So this is iltizam. For example, when you make a sign, you make a contract of buying and selling, so you already signed the contract that you will sell your house. So you have to sell your house. So this is obligation. This is iltizam. So when you already sign your contract with Mr. A that you will sell your house to Mr. A, so in that case, you cannot sign the contract with anybody else, with Mr. B or Mr. C, because you already give your commitment to someone. So the same referring to the same subject matter, you cannot make another commitment, right? That's why the Prophet said, when a Muslim brother bargain on something, you don't enter into the bargaining unless they finish. When someone offer a girl to marry, the khitbah, so you don't interfere unless they settle, unless they finish. So in that case, it is iltizam that you cannot enter into their agreement. All right. So this is iltizam. It means something which is binding on you. So iltizam can come mutually. For example, a contract, buying and selling, or leasing, the agreement between lessor and lessee, the agreement between buyer and seller. So iltizam can come from mutual wills. It also can come from a single will, unilateral. For example, nuzur. Nuzur means, in English also it is called vow. Means you make a nuzur, you make a commitment on yourself that if you pass the exam, you will give $100 to the poor, or you will provide food for the orphans, for the poor people in your kampung. So this is a nuzur. This is a commitment on yourself. You did it alone. Means a single commitment. There is no other people involved in this commitment. So this is unilateral commitment, and in the commitment also can be mutual. Okay. So these are four terms: iltizam, tasarruf, and muawada and wa'ad. We discussed, and I hope you understand the meaning of all these terms and the difference among these terms, and especially what are the differences between these four and the aqad. Okay. So do you have any question? Ada soalan so far? Paham? Any question? No question, right? Okay. Okay. Okay, then we go next. Permissibility of a contract. So what is the Sharia status? What is the Sharia rulings for the contract? Whether a contract is permissible or not. So basically, the original principle, original ruling, Al-Qaeda al-Asliya, the basic ruling in Fiqh Muamalat is every contract is permissible, right? Until unless um, it violates any Sharia principles. So a Muslim, the Muslim can design any contract, or can come up any agreement as long as it is within the boundary of Sharia. All right. So in the Quran, Allah mentioned that fulfill all obligation. So whatever you make the commitment, you do the contract, you have to fulfill. The Prophet ﷺ said, Muslims are bound by their condition. Al-Muslimuna ala shurutihim. Means whatever condition you make in the contract, you have to follow, you have to fulfill. For example, you are selling your house, you say, okay, you have to make the payment within 1 week. You have to make the payment within 2 weeks, or you want to give chance for 1 year. It's up to you. All right. But whatever you agree in the contract, as long as the condition is valid, halal, permissible, you have to follow. This is called Muslimun ala shurutihim, accept the condition to make lawful what is unlawful and to make unlawful what is lawful. Means accept if it violates the Sharia principles. For example, in the market, it is a common practice that when you buy something, let's say the seller will make delivery without any cost, free delivery. But in your contract, somehow you agree that you have to pay, that the buyer will pay 100 ringgit. In that case, you have to pay 100 ringgit. Even though the customary practice, it should be free, but as long as you make the agreement, so you have to follow that. The agreement always should be given priority on the customary practice. Means whatever we do, the agreement we have to follow. That's the thing. Unless if it is haram, then we don't need to follow. Okay, so this is it gives a big flexibility for us that we can design our contract with whatever condition we think it is suitable for us, for both of us, for both parties. Okay, so basically the original ruling in the financial dealings is that of permissibility. Means in financial contract, the original ruling is permissible. Al-aslu fil muamalat al-ibaha. Right. So we can design our contract, we can make our documentation, we can make whatever condition we want to put. It's okay as long as we mutually agree and as long as it is halal. All right. However, the Zahiri school we know is out of 4 prominent school of Islamic law. They are quite strict. According to them, what is mentioned already in the nusus in Quran and Sunnah, that contract is only permissible because they always try to follow the legal text. The textual meaning they always try to follow. They don't believe any qiyas, they don't acknowledge any maslaha or any other reasoning. Right. Zahir. Zahir means what is apparent, what is the clearly understood. So whatever clearly understood from the words, they follow. That's why they are quite strict in terms of designing the contract. But however, the other school, Shafi, Hanafi, Maliki, and Hanbali, they are flexible. Means they follow the legal maxim, the qaida, because the qaida says everything is halal, right? Everything is permissible unless it is proven otherwise. We discussed this one in the istishab. I believe you still remember istishab, presumption of continuity, right? So in istishab, we also mentioned that everything is halal unless you prove otherwise. So this is the regarding the contract. A Muslim can design any contract as long as the condition, everything is halal, as long as subject matter is halal, so no issue. Okay. So there are basically 2 types of contract: unilateral and bilateral. Unilateral means one party only from one side, the commitment from one side. Bilateral, mutual, the commitment from both sides. Okay. So what is the unilateral contract? It is a one-sided contract made by one party only. Right. It is basically the transaction that involve the gratuitous nature, means the voluntary. Is basically something related to donation, hiba, sadaqat, charitable kind of activities, one-sided, unilateral. So no consent is required from the recipient party. Normally, when we say mutual agreement, it means you deliver the goods and the buyer should receive. Qabad should be there. It's just only you make delivery, so there is no document on the qabad, so it's not perfect. It's not okay. I deliver you my house, so you have to acknowledge that you receive. All right. This is called qabad, possession, or possession. So, but in unilateral contract, the qabad is not required, and the consent, whether you agree or not, is not necessary. For example, hiba means gift, donation. If you want to donate to someone else, if you want to make some charity, some sadaqah, so it is not necessary for other person whether he agree or not. If a person doesn't agree to want to take donation, then you can give other person, no issue. All right. Wasiya, will. You can make a will for anyone else. So no need his consent. Waqaf, endowment, is all the gratuitous or voluntary in nature, right? It's a charitable activities, donation, will, or endowment. Okay, so this is unilateral contract, the contract from one side only. The opposite is bilateral. Bilateral means two-sided. Majority of the Islamic commercial transactions are based on bilateral contract. For example, contract of sale, contract of lease, partnership is all bilateral. Right, means from both sides. So in bilateral, the agreement or the consent from other party is must, is necessary. Okay? So this is the difference between unilateral and bilateral. Unilateral is effected by one party. Bilateral effected by two parties. In unilateral, does not require consent of the recipient party. No need his agreement or her agreement. But here, in bilateral, the consent of the both party are required, is must. Sharia principles related to the pillar of the contracts are relaxed. Means in unilateral contract, the pillar of the contract is what? The contracting parties, the subject matter, means the commodity and the payment. So is relaxed, means it can be clear, can be not. Means, let's say, we don't know how much he wants to donate, what is the commodity wants to donate, so we don't know. So no need, it's okay. Any terms of jahala or unknowingness, not knowing or ignorance is accepted, is relaxed in unilateral contract. But in bilateral, it is strict. Means we must know who is the buyer, who is the seller, what is the commodity, what are the payment. Everything should be clear. There should not be any gharar. There should not be any jahala, any ignorance. But in unilateral, it's okay. Even though I don't know how much he wants to donate, but as long as he said he wants to donate, it's okay. No need to ask because there is no commitment from other party. All right. So the Sharia pillars, the Sharia principles related to the pillars is relaxed, but in bilateral it is strict. Strict means everything should be clear, everything precisely documented, right? Everything should be clearly mentioned regarding the contracting parties, who is the buyer, who is the seller, all right? What are their condition, what is the subject matter, what is the commodity, when is the time of delivery, when the payment should be done. Everything should be mentioned clearly in bilateral contract. Okay, so this is the difference between unilateral and bilateral. Bilateral contract is further divided into different categories based on the purpose of the agreement. Bilateral contract has many types. So a scholar traditionally divided bilateral contracts into 6 classifications. There are 6 classifications, 6 category of bilateral contract. So it is very important for you to understand because all of these contracts are applicable and practice and have been practicing in Islamic finance industry. For example, contract of exchange, in Arabic called Muawadat. Like exchange means buy and sell, right? Contract of security, in Arabic called Tawsiqat, is a kind of guarantee. For example, Kafala, Rahan. Rahan means something collateral, something you put as a mortgage, right? So this is contract of security. Number 3, contracts of partnership, shirka, like musharaka, mudaraba. Number 4, contracts of safe custody. For example, wadi'a. Wadi'a is a safe custody. Wadi'a is name of the contract itself, safe custody contract. Number 5, contract of pertaining to the utilization of usufruct, manfa. We discussed manfa before, right? In the components of the mal, asset. So number 5 is contract related to manfa. For example, ijara. If you want to rent your house with money, then aria. Aria means you want to sell, you want to rent your house free. So ijara is not free, but aria is free. But aria is donating the benefit only, not the asset. Number 6, contracts pertaining to do a job. This is a kind of service-oriented or performance-based contract. For example, wakala agency. If you do this work for me, I will pay you this amount. Is an agency contract. Or joala. Joala means incentive-based contract, commission. For example, if you can make a profit more than this amount, so I will give you 20% of that amount. So you have a fixed salary, but also above this salary, in addition to this salary, you will get some percentage of the profit itself. All right, as a motivation. So this is Joala. Right. So all this category, all this classification are bilateral, two side. So contract of exchange, like buying and selling, contracts of security, like kafala, like rahan, contracts of partnership, like mudaraba musharaka, contracts of safe custody, like wadi'a, contracts of pertaining to the utilization of usufruct, like ijara, like i'ara or ariya, okay? And then contracts pertaining to do a work, means contracts based on the performance, like wakala and juala, okay? So these are 6 types of contract, bilateral contract. Okay, any questions so far? We discuss many types of contract, unilateral and bilateral, and we discuss the difference between unilateral and bilateral, and also we discuss some categories, six categories of bilateral contract. Okay, any question so far? No question. Okay. Okay, next, pillars of the contract. What is the pillar? We just now we discussed, right? In unilateral contract, the principle related to the pillars will be relaxed. But in bilateral contract, the pillars, the principle or the issue related to the pillars should not be relaxed. It should be completed and perfect. So in terms of the pillar, there are 2 opinions among the scholars. Hanafi scholars, all right, according to Hanafi scholars, the pillars is only 2, offer and acceptance, ijab and qabul. All right. So if ijab and qabul is okay, the contract is okay. even though there is a problem in the subject matter, but still the contract can be considered valid, and then the issue should be rectified, should be settled. All right. However, majority scholar is quite strict. They said everything related to the contract, like ijab and qabul, like the subject matter, price and commodity, like the contracting parties, the offerer and the acceptor, or the buyer and the seller, is all considered the pillars of a contract. So the Hanafi scholar said pillars only two, offer and acceptance. However, the majority says no, the pillars are six: offer, acceptance, ijab and qabul, price and commodity, thaman and mutamman, and offerer and acceptor. Means we can say easily buyer and seller, or lessor and lessee. So all six are considered the pillar of a contract. All right. So offer and acceptance is called the siga. This is the terminology you have to memorize. The siga. The price and commodity is called mahallul aqad, subject matter. Means the place where the aqad is happens. So mahallul aqad. And contracting parties, al-aqidan. Al-aqidan. Al-aqidan means contracting parties. Okay. So you see, if we take the Hanafi view, then we will get some flexibility, because when we say something pillar, it means all these things should be fulfilled, should be completed perfectly. If any problem happens, the contract should be invalid. If you say pillar, pillar means rukun. Pillar means something should be perfect. So Hanafi says only two, offer and acceptance. That's why Hanafi opinion gives some flexibility. Let's say even though offer and acceptance is okay, but there is an issue in the price, there is an issue in the commodity, still we can consider the contract is valid, and then we have to settle the problem. But on the other hand, based on the opinion of majority, it is quite difficult, because they consider all the six among the pillars. So anything happens regarding the price, the contract is invalid from the majority. But for Hanafi, the contract is still valid. Okay. Why there is a difference? Because Hanafi school says the pillar should be the underlying part of the contract, the main foundation of the contract. So what is the main foundation of the contract? The communication between the contracting parties, the offer and acceptance. But majority says the pillar means the essential part of the contract, even though it is not the underlying part. So this is the differences. The Hanafi says the pillar means underlying part, the foundation. So the foundation is offer and acceptance, because offer and acceptance is the based on is the basis of communication. But majority says no, no. The pillar is not the underlying part only. The pillar also essential part. So the commodity is essential, the price is essential, the contracting part is also essential. That's why majority consider all the six items as the pillar. But Hanafi says no, only two items will be the pillar. The rest is just condition, just shart. Okay. So what is the consequence? The consequence of this difference between Hanafi and other school, the Hanafi, they got three category of the contract: the valid, voidable, and void. Sahih, Fasid, and Batil. But majority, they got only two: Sahih and Batil. Means majority, yes or no. All right. Accepted and rejected. There is no middle point. But for Hanafi, yes, no, in between. All right. Means keep in view, KIV. But for majority, no. Yes and no. But for Hanafi, three. Yes, no, KIV. KIV means Fasid. So, for Hanafi, valid means the pillars are okay. Batil means the pillars are not okay, means offer and acceptance. But what is fasid? Fasid means the pillars are okay, but there is issue in other item. For example, offer and acceptance is okay, but the commodity, the price is not okay. All right. So when, let's say, the commodity and price is not settled, then Hanafi say it is fasid. It is fasid means it is in between. We can rectify, we can make correction. Let's say the commodity is not clear, so we can make it clear. The price is not mentioned, so we can mention, and then we can accept the contract. But majority say no, as long as the price is not mentioned, it's cancelled. All right. So taking the opinion of majority, we face some sort of hardship and difficulties. But taking the opinion of Hanafi, we will get the flexibility. Because if, let's say, the price is not mentioned, we can still consider the contract and we can rectify the contract. Okay, so this is the consequence between from the difference of opinion among the Hanafi and the majority. All right. So what is valid? The contract is considered valid when all the pillars are okay, are satisfied. All right. The pillars, if you took Hanafi opinion, the pillars only 2. But if you took the majority opinion, the pillars are 6. Right? So whatever, if the pillars are okay, satisfied, then it is valid. So valid means it has the legal effects. So valid means it is binding with immediate effect after the contract has been concluded. So valid contract means you say you sold your house, so you have to make delivery of the house, and the buyer should make the payment. All right. Valid means the contract is settled, then you have to fulfill the commitment. Okay, this is valid. What is batil? Batil is the opposite of valid. The pillars of the contract and its condition is not satisfied. All right. So a batil contract does not have any legal effect. So no title may be passed, no ownership will be transferred. For example, sale of liquor. If a Muslim sell the wine, then it is a batil contract. So there will no commitment will arise. So let's say if somehow a Muslim purchase a wine from another Muslim, then it is a batil contract. So he doesn't need to accept the contract. He doesn't need to receive the wine, and he doesn't need to make the payment. It has no legal outcome, no legal effect. The contract is batal, right? However, for Hanafi, there is a middle position in fasid. What is fasid? When something in the contract other than the pillars is defective. Remember, the pillars are okay, but the other issue is not okay. So when Hanafi considered the pillars only ijab and qabul, so as long as ijab and qabul is done, the contract is okay. Maybe there is an issue in the payment, maybe there is an issue in the commodity, maybe there is an issue in the seller or in the buyer, maybe the buyer is still minor, so the contract is will be in pending on the permission of his guardian or her guardian. All right. So fasid means the pillars are satisfied, but there is a problem in other than the pillars. All right. So fasid contract can be validated through their rectification by the interested party or because of prescription of the action which obstruct the validity. Fasid means, as I mentioned already, in between. We can rectify. For example, let's say um, a minor. A minor means which is not 18 in the legal age, right? Not 18. So a minor sold his asset to someone else. All right. So what is the ruling of the contract? Can we say it is batil, or can we say it is fasid, or it is sahih? If, let's say, a minor does some contract, then for Hanafi it is fasid, as long as there is ijab and qabul. Why it is fasid? Because ijab and qabul is okay. Only the issue in the contracting parties, because he is minor. So what is this decision? The contract is fasid, so it will be in the pending status, subject to the permission of the guardian. So if later on the guardian say, okay, I agree, then the contract becomes sahih. But if the guardian say, no, I don't agree, then the contract will go to batil. All right. But for majority, at the first moment, it is batil, because the contracting parties is the pillar according to majority. So as long as the seller or the buyer is the minor, so the contract is batil. Okay. I hope you understand the difference opinion among the Hanafi and majority, and the consequence. The consequence is very important. All right. The consequence is very important. So for Hanafi, three types of contract: Sahih, Fasid, and Batil. For majority, only two contracts: Sahih and Batil. Yes or no? Yes or no? But for Hanafi, no. Yes, no, in between. In between means later on it can go to no, or it can go to yes. This is called Fasid. Okay. So we finish the chapter. So we discussed the definition of contract. We discussed the difference among the terms related to the contract: wa'ad, mu'awada, iltizam, and tasarruf. And then we discussed the scholar approach to the new contract. We said the Zahiri school, they are quite strict to accept any new contract, because they always refer to the textual meaning. But for other schools, they are quite flexible, because they refer to the maqasid as well, to the meaning of the text as well. All right. Finally, we discussed then also we discussed many types of contract: unilateral and bilateral. And we discussed there are 6 categories of bilateral contract. We discussed with the examples. And finally, we discussed about the pillars of the contract. And there are 2 opinions, Hanafi and majority. So for Hanafi, the pillars are only 2: offer and acceptance. And that's why they got 3 types of contract: Sahih, Fasid, and Batil. Valid, voidable, and void. But for majority, according to them, the 6 are the pillars: offer and acceptance, price and commodity, and then contracting parties, buyer and seller, or offerer and acceptor. So that's why they got only 2 types of contract: either Sahih or Batil, valid or void. Okay. So I hope you understand. So that's the end of my lecture and presentation. Thank you very much for good listening. Now, if you have any question or anything you don't understand, you can ask. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, please, do you have any question? Anybody? What if people forgot about the nuzur that they make, sin or not? They should not forget the nuzur. The nuzur has to fulfill. If you make a nuzur, it means you make yourself committed to do something, so you have to fulfill. Otherwise, there is kafara. There is kafara for 3 days fasting and other things. Right. In the Quran, Allah mentioned clearly, if you don't fulfill nuzur, then you have to pay kafara. So should not forget. Should not forget. Okay. What if he? So if really forgets, then of course Allah will forgive, right? The Prophet ﷺ mentioned, "Rufi an ummati al khata wa nisyan wa mastukrihu alayhi." So whatever we really forget, there will be no sin, because it is the rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us, that if we forget something, that will be forgiven. So if he or she really forgets, died before he can fulfill his nuzur, then if died, then the waris, they should fulfill if they know. All right. Let's say I know already my father did this nuzur, but he couldn't fulfill, then I have to fulfill. But if I don't know, then Allah will forgive if he forgets. But if intentionally anybody did not fulfill the nuzur, then he or she will be sinful, because it is a commitment we have to fulfill. Okay. After we pay the kafara, do we need to fulfill the nuzur? Um, uh, First of all, why you don't you are not fulfilling the nuzur? Is it impossible? It is something not possible. If it is possible and you still remember, then you should fulfill the nuzur. The kafara is actually in the unable situation, if you don't if you are not able to fulfill the nuzur, right? Let's say somebody does the nuzur, but later on he or she finds it is not possible for him or her to fulfill, then only can pay the kafara, right? So kafara is not in the normal situation. Kafara is if it is not possible for you to fulfill. Okay. 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 No problem. Thank you also. Any other question? Okay. Okay. Don't forget to give the attendance. Sometimes student forget to give the attendance. So attendance link already provided, right? So don't forget. And then if there is no question, then can we close the session? Um, okay. Wait. I forgot to share uh, the review question. There is review question. So you can discuss among yourself in the group, and you can you can prepare, you can read, you can do a study based on this review question. So it will be helpful for you to understand the lesson, and maybe to prepare for the exam, right? So I will put this one already in the slide, and also I will put in the clip, inshallah. Okay, these are the review question. Okay, so inshallah, if there is no more question, so we can close the session today, inshallah. So we close our session with Tasbih al-Kafara and Surah Al-Asr. سبحانك اللهم استغفرك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت وأتوب إليك أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Okay, وبالله التوفيق والهداية. Thank you very much. جزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
You, Doctor.